Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Coffee, Code, and Chat. Today, we have an awesome episode. We're going to be talking about learning to code, tips, and all that other good stuff. And we have a guest, which is always awesome because it really sucks talking by myself. So I'm glad that we were able to get some guests. So, hey, what's up? How have you been?
Good. Just the daily grind of learning something new every day. So that's the tip to coding. Learn something new every day.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Like, I know there's going to be people, there's got to be secrets of like, how can you 10x everything? But the truth is, you just got to do it every day and learn something. But before we jump into it, I know you've been on this podcast before, but can you do a quick intro, kind of your journey and where you're going? Because I think it's an interesting story, and it'll be, we could start with that first.
I guess a recap. I was driving a forklift at this manufacturing company, and I said, I'm tired of this. And that's when I decided to go back to school. I was late 20s. I think I was 29. And that's when I started the computer science journey. And I'm about to complete my degree. I'm just entering the capstone project. It's a 3-term series, so that's 9 months where you take a project from start to finish for a concept that could be applied to the real world. And it takes 3 months, and you work within a team.
Oh, wow.
And that's. So it's been a journey. But it's almost over.
No, but
There's no finish line though.
No, yeah. I was gonna say you're always gonna be learning forever, but I do love the fact that you decided to go and get the computer science degree, because there's always this divide. People like, no, like self-taught is the way to go. No one cares about degrees, or like boot camps don't matter. Stuff. The fact is, like, if I was able to, and to go back, like I'm 42 right now. If my company says we'll pay for you to go back and finish or do a computer science degree, I would do it. You know what I mean? And so like I think it's not something you should be like completely disregard and be like there's no value, because I think it like brings huge value, especially if you could do it. And if not, there's nothing wrong with taking the self taught course, and a lot of the things you are learning by yourself anyway. But tell us the decision why you made it, and how you said like 29 when you started into the program.
I was 29, I believe, and I had some math that I needed to take before I went, in. Got that completed. Started the calculus series at the university, and what did you want to know? Like what got me there?
Like why you decided to do the degree rather than going just the self-taught route?
I always valued a degree.
Yeah.
Especially, not just any degree. I was an electronic tech in the Navy. I took apart computers, and went into the DOS when I was like, what? 11, 10, something like that. And I had to reformat the computer. I remember being on the phone with a tech support guy for about 11 hours as he walked me through how to rebuild the system. And I think he had more fun than I did, just showing me how to do that, because at the time, everything was coming out. We were still on 56K modem. And we had a Gateway 2000, and it was a long phone call. But anyways, I always valued a degree, but it always had to be something that I felt was important, that was useful and interesting. And the first idea was computer science. That was the first thought in my mind. It wasn't anything else. I took what I knew, what I was doing, what I was interested in, and I said, hey, what degree fits that? And it was computer science.
Yeah. Hold on. Someone's saying there was an echo. Let me see if I could fix that.
Is it mine?
No, it's probably my mic. And let me try something. Let me do this. Say something now. Okay, that doesn't work. Say something now.
Hi.
Let me know if there's still an echo. There might be a thing that was happening. I'll have to figure that out later. Like maybe the music is gone now, but it's okay. Yeah. So thanks for let me know, Serge. Let me know if there's an echo still. Okay, so I think it's fixed. Cool. I figured it out. This is
Okay.
my fault. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. So yeah, the computer science, you know, that was it. That's what I mean. There was you could go electrical engineering is the program I'm in at OSU is it's all computer science is all under the engineering department.
Yeah.
It used to be under the mathematics department, but they switched. But anyways, um, yeah. So that's why I chose it. I didn't even, I think at the time I saw like I didn't even know about boot camps, and
Wow.
I didn't even have the money to pay for it. Anyways, I was still working at that forklift job, and I ended up taking a year off just to work. Um, while I moved, and I worked for about a year at this technical support for Stripe payments,
Yeah.
and then just took a year off before I transferred to university. I only spent a year at like a 2 year college
Yep.
to get the math out of the way, and then I transferred. So I went in as a late freshman at Oregon or OSU.
Not,
The
yeah.
state, yeah, yeah.
Not
Anyways, I don't
nice.
care about. Oh, people know where I am. Oh my god. Hey, what's up? Yeah, I'm here.
I'm in Texas. When
Yeah,
you
what's
come,
up?
let's go hang
Yeah.
out. Uh,
But yeah, I mean, it's been a really cool journey. I I don't know. I was never swayed by, oh, should I go to a boot camp or should I go to university? I always knew that you know this university had a great engineering program. I've always known that. It's always been well funded for that, and yeah,
Sharon says she went to Oregon State in 1990s.
yeah,
Go Beavs. Nice.
yep,
No, yeah, no, that's cool. For me, I feel like, people have to understand there's many paths of getting to a goal that you want to go to, and they all have their pros and cons. And for me, to be honest, a lot of people think because I'm self-taught, they think I'm like against like degrees. To me,
yeah,
if you can't do it, go get a computer science degree. Like, yeah,
yeah. Like, it's
I
all
mean,
self-taught. Like no one holds your hand.
but
Like
but it's like, there's so much value in it.
yeah, yeah,
And like talking to you, like let's talk about this value and how you
yeah,
can maybe give some tips how people who don't have your experience of going to university and are going to self-taught route. It seems that you get like a really good like general like uh not like general but like I guess general, I want to say overview, or like a more like a broader approach to learning to code, because I know like there are certain languages that you learn in school, for purposes of teaching and learning, where I would not even learn or
yeah,
explore because I'm like, oh, I just want to get a job.
yeah,
And they
yeah.
all lay the foundation. So can you talk about like what that broad education like encompasses, and then also like some of the ways that us could do something similar?
I mean the so being you still have to teach it. So I want to start off by saying you have to still teach yourself at the university. There's no, they'll give you the assignment, sure, but we were given an assignment and we always had to reference whatever language documentation we were using, whether it was Haskell or C or Python or SQL. It's we had to reference. We had to read a lot of documentation. So get comfortable reading documentation, understand the foundation of why that language exists or whatever like insert subject exists, and start building a strong foundation, because you don't want to get lost as you go down the road. I mean, you can always refer back if you don't know something. I mean, I
Yeah.
have documentation pulled up all the time because I don't like I'm planning on building this next project with Flutter, I do believe. And I don't know Flutter or Dart. So don't be afraid to just don't be afraid or overwhelmed. Start out really small, take things piece by piece and connect things together how you recognize how you learn things and then connect it together for what's best for your learning pattern.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes like perfect sense. And in terms of like self-taught like students, if they feel like, oh, I'm missing out on like some of the computer science topics, like from because you're getting closer to the end, from all the things that you learn, like what are some of the things you're like, man, people should definitely, cover this topic either in school or on their own? Like, what would some of those topics be?
Probably how to start a business. You could always but no, what topics don't we cover? How, we covered a lot of topics.
But I'm saying from like what you've learned, which I know like I probably like don't even know I should learn. You know what I mean? Like, so from like
Yeah.
what you learn in the computer science, you're like, man, self-taught developers who don't get a chance to go to university should definitely, explore these
No,
topics.
programming paradigms like
Yeah,
imperative, functional. Like we touched our introduction to functional programming. We had to write a lot of Haskell from the from the very first week we were writing Haskell, and she started us off really small. Um, so programming paradigms, yeah, I would definitely be familiar with it because I see it a lot in Dart. I do believe is what I recognized it in, where you have a function, but it always returns a type. But everything's built on top of each other, so they kind of all blends together, anyways. TypeScript, it, types are important to me, at least. I enjoy knowing what's happening. I enjoy descriptive programming.
yeah, yeah. So,
So, I don't know.
no,
That's
go. I was gonna say like you can go ahead, but I was gonna say, so you really like enjoy TypeScript in
no. I
terms of
mean, I just
JavaScript.
enjoy types. Like understand types, and like the like understand how to work with memory. Why you don't have to worry about garbage collection. What what's happening when on the heap stack. How your memory is allocated, how your variables are working together, how references work, and that'll especially answer questions for JavaScript developers
Yeah.
because you just create a variable and it's like magic, but it's not. It's a memory address,
And it
and
works different with like objects versus like other things that you have.
yeah,
Some
yeah,
people
and
like,
then
get in trouble.
yeah.
Um,
So you can learn it the hard way or the hard way. So you can
it-
understand what's happening the hard way or just figure it out by making mistakes. Either way, it works.
yeah, no, and it's like to me this is like cool. Like I'm interested about it. So like for me, when you say this is something you should know, like I'm just like let me add it to the list of things to learn. And I think that's like one of the biggest things to know. It's like are you cut out for this job when you feel like you get excited for learning some of these topics? Because the truth is, if you're not excited about it even a little bit, it is a lot of work to
Yeah.
do what you got. So let me ask you a question, because like plenty of like people ask this question and watch like, what can you learn in 3 months? Like, are you going to be a 10x developer in 3 months? Because I know a lot of people on YouTube like in 3 months you could make like bajillion dollars, drive a Porsche and whatever, and create whatever the hell you want out of Python, or any language insert here. So like, what has your experience been? And do you think, do you agree with that or disagree with that? What do you think is the most realistic thing um, in your mind?
Well, breaking it down to what our, our term length, it's 3 months. We learn one thing per course. like one concept or a list of concepts, or there's SQL like database management. There was always two parts, so part one and two. So for the database series, it was database one and two, software engineering one and two, um, calculus. The math series doesn't really count. Um, what else was it? Security, introduction to security, and then 373. What I'm saying is you can learn the basics in 3 months to
Yeah.
get familiar with what's happening. And then, I mean, if you're really good, sure, yeah, you can build a multi-million-dollar unicorn company. Why not? I
Come
mean,
on.
I'm not saying that
What are the
anything's not
chances of that
possible.
though for regular folks? Like, come on. Like, I think like
Like
it's
you're gonna
it's
get
nice
from
to dream, but
yeah,
have
yeah,
realistic expectations.
yeah, definitely. Focus. I would utilize those 3 months to understand one concept or a family of concepts well, and
Right.
then move on because there's people who've been doing this for 20 years.
The-
I'm only in it for what 4 or 5 years, and
yeah.
shoot, I'm just getting comfortable. Like I'm
Yeah.
just finally getting. I feel like I'm comfortable now where I'm like, hey, let's go learn Flutter. Let's go learn Dart. Let's go build one thing after I design how everything is supposed to work, how I'm going to maintain everything. I have a comfortable understanding of I know how to get the answers on how to do that.
Yeah. No, no, that's it's yes, 100%. And this is the thing I tell people, like, I feel don't try to get into this field and set goals like in 3 months. If I don't get a job, that means I'm not cut out for it, because the truth is it
Yeah.
takes time. It takes a lot of hard work. Like you said, like you've been doing it for 4 years, you're finally starting to get some level of comfort, and I still
Mhm.
feel like I don't even have that level of comfort yet, because there's just so much stuff. And from standpoint of like all the different things that the field touches, like regardless if you're a front-end developer, back-end developer, there's so much stuff to learn. Like for instance, I know some like back end development stuff, but I don't call myself a full stack developer. I'm like a front end developer that's familiar with
Yeah.
some full stack stuff, because to me, when I see back end developers, it's not only like the fact that they can make the back end, but they don't understand the
Mhm.
deployment process. They understand how to troubleshoot like databases and all this other stuff. They understand like this concept of scaling and what are some of the issues you run into and how to solve them. And for me, like there's so much stuff on those things that I just mentioned that I don't know. So I'm like, I'm not a full stack developer because I wouldn't be able to function in that capacity in terms of those things that are required. And so I feel people
Yeah.
shouldn't rush themselves. They should have honest expectations. It's going to take time. And it doesn't mean that in like 3 months you wouldn't be able to build like a simple website, or in 6 months be able to create some sort of API, and in 1 year feel comfortable like creating something for your customer using like React or something. But it's not going to be as easy as people make it out, like 1000%. And like also to the point how you were saying, someone in 3 months can maybe come up with an idea and create a unicorn company and get started. But the truth is, even at that, it's like unless you have a business sense and you understand how that works, like the chances of you having a successful one is going to be very, very difficult. So what are some of the tips like on your day-to-day like coding journey when you're starting out to versus now, like that help you learn faster, or not even faster, but just like you felt was like the efficient way of doing things?
Well, I learned what not to do, because when I first started, I would be putting this uh, time constraint on me, especially during the breaks, and especially during that time that year off. I was saying to myself, man, I'm not learning fast enough. I was, how I defined it was, oh, was it echo? Was, I was a leaf on the tree, just blowing with the wind. This new framework came out, or this insert X new framework X came out. Oh, I got to learn this. Oh, which language should I learn? Which one's more beneficial? Which language will get me the job the fastest? I was listening to all these people that weren't that didn't have my best interest in mind. I was, because I didn't know what I was doing. I was just starting out. I had no feel for the landscape of this entire, uh, you know, uh, community, I guess you'd call it. And I was just a leaf on the tree, blowing in the wind. I didn't have my feet set in my position of where I wanted to take this. So I finally, you know, I said, hey, look, I need all my lanes to go in one direction. No matter what I did, if I started off with one lane and I just kept adding lanes, but they were all pointed in one direction. So that's what I would say is don't listen to, oh, well, you should learn this language or this language will get you a job. Ignore everything, put blinders on, and learn one thing and learn the one thing well. Search for what else you can add to that, how that whatever you're learning interacts with another thing, and then add that lane to your life. And but they have to point in one direction. You
Yeah.
have to be going. You can't pancake yourself.
Yeah, and it's a very good point. First of all, like there's so much stuff to learn in terms of programming, so knowing the lane that you're in is like super important. And I went even like beyond that, which is kind of like I felt I needed to do that. I don't know that everybody need to do that, but even in terms of like making that transition from my previous job to be like, okay, I'm going to be a developer, so I'm going to do activities that a developer does. So I used to be a big like I used to do Brazilian jiu-jitsu and martial arts all the time, like mixed martial arts and stuff. And that took such a big part of my life. And I'm like, I cannot continue doing this activity because it's pulling me in two different things because I need to, because I was like in my late 30s and I was like, man, I don't have time. That's one thing that I don't have. So I literally
Yeah,
just like my lane is to become a developer, and all the things in my personal life, even outside of coding, had to be in line in terms of giving me the time and like helping me stay focused on moving forward. And then also when I did start to program and code, I was doing like too many different things that were not in line with like what I was learning. And so like you're right, I was like pancaking myself. I was like pulling myself apart and I wasn't
yeah,
making progress. It's only when I decided and picked like this one area to kind of guide me forward and working on the things that are related to that that allowed me to make progress. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, don't follow anyone. Like, don't. I mean, you can, but just do your own thing. Make up something, and then do that. Just that's this. Okay, so this field's only what 30 years old, 35 years old. Like, there's so
Yeah.
much
Yeah.
new stuff to do. It's like you. Everyone has the ability to, create. Like, if you have an idea, don't let people tell you that, oh, that's so bad. Like, listen to them if they know what they're talking about,
Right.
but like still like be like, oh, can I do this? And then try to do it, and then see what if it's already been done.
Yeah.
But like, do it.
So, um, actually, Sharon was asking, are you familiar with like CS50 Intro to CS course? You could check out on the Harvard's YouTube channel.
Yeah, I
It's on
checked that out.
EDX. Yeah. It's it's a really good course for anybody who, let's say, doesn't have access to a university. Like, check it out. Like, the teacher's very engaging. It's a lot of fun to just watch, and will give you some like general overview of like what Intro to CS feels like. In your day-to-day coding, let me ask you this question, because a lot of people, and I was one of them for the longest time until I literally forced myself to stop it, but getting stuck in tutorial hell because a lot of people just feel like they need more tutorials. And if you've been doing this for a while, you'll understand that tutorials, they get you started, but they don't get you over the fence in terms of learning to code. They actually hinder you if you continue to do tutorials. So how is your process in learning something new, and what do you do, when you're doing it?
Yeah, I fell into that trap. I got out of it once I felt comfortable, you know, just going out. Oh, once I said I'm done with tutorials, they weren't. I was just. I didn't. I was just watching. I wasn't being involved. So yeah, I don't. Tutorials are great to get started. You're right, but they don't help you. They help you up to a point, and then they keep you at a ceiling of. To break past that ceiling, you have to start thinking for yourself.
Yep.
and how to solve a problem that and find an answer to that problem. And then you might spend days on it. Who knows? But you have to start thinking for yourself and asking the right questions.
Yeah, no, 100%. And so in your mind, is that like being like, okay, let me just build something from scratch, and whatever struggle I run
Yes.
into, I'm just going to figure it out?
Yes. Yes. That's the best. That's what that's what I need to do sometimes, to be like, okay, this is why they do that. This is why this exists. You know, it's like,
Let me,
okay, so go ahead.
no, go. Because you could continue this, but I just want to say, like, one thing I noticed when you build something from scratch and struggle and like literally bang your head against the desk, the lessons learned in that process, you never forget.
Yeah,
That's
it's
been my
great.
experience. Yeah. So like tell us more about it, because I think this is like a lot of people just don't realize this, that they wait too long to get started building something from scratch for whatever reasons, and we could talk about those more too.
I mean, so I did like if I look at something like, oh, how to format dates or something like that in an insert language, or like we had to build a lot of things from the bottom up during the courses, anyways. Like
Yeah.
we couldn't use Express when we had to take we had to take a web development series, but there was no Express or anything. We had to manage all the headers. For C, we had to build our own databases, and it's honestly, everything is an abstraction to make everything easier to do, because it'd be so hard to do. Anyways, building things from scratch, you understand. It's like being. I heard a good analogy. It's are you like just a car owner who wants to get from point A to point B? Okay, Python's great for you. But are you a mechanic who is maintaining a Formula One race car, and you want to know each nut and bolt and how tight that torque is on that one piece of, do you want to be the like Formula One racer, or do you just want to get to point A to point B? And the only way to do that is to either decide what you want to do first, the time you have, and how much you want to learn. But it helps you by building something from scratch helps you understand why other things exist to make your life easier. In my opinion, otherwise you're just using the tool, which is fine. But whether or not something breaks and you need to fix it will be a whole new question, because you have to also think about maintenance
Yeah.
and documentation and adding new features, which falls into maintenance, and repeat that whole cycle. So think
Yeah.
about the whole process of, it's not just about writing code, it's about writing maintainable code that other people can step into. And also, is your easy choice going to be make your life harder down the line?
Yep. And I think like that's one of the flaws with doing tutorials. By the way, like we all start with tutorials. And we
Yeah.
need tutorials, and we need teachers that make tutorials. But the point is, you have to understand, after like 3 or 4, you don't need to do anymore. Like there's not like a massive number that you need
Take
20
the
or
training
30.
wheels off.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the things I learned about, one thing that I could 100% say that tutorials stop me from doing, is thinking for myself in terms of like planning projects that I want to build, because you're always working on something somebody else already thought about and created, and you don't even know the reason why they did certain things they did. Maybe they explain, maybe they won't, but until you start doing it on your own, you're like, oh, this is why I don't do that. Oh, this is a better way of doing it. And it's through trial and error, and it's through failing. And one of the things that I do all the time, like, and I still live code on my YouTube channel on Fridays, because even if I don't know it, like if I'm starting like brand new looking at the documentation and I'm failing and people like, oh man, you don't know what you're doing, you suck. Like, I don't care about that, because to me, I know that that's not going to last, because I'm actually doing the work. I am experimenting, I'm trying. And the coolest thing you could do, it's like you try something in, like from the documentation, and then you're like, I wonder if you could do it this way, and you come up with like some bunch of weird ways of doing something. Some things work, some things don't, and then you start to understand the reason underneath it why it works and why you could have done this or couldn't like not done that. And then I think that's the coolest thing. And I say people just start building stuff from scratch. I know you're like really big on that. That's why I asked you that, because like that is the fastest and the like if there was a shortcut to learning to code, it's build projects from scratch, even though when you're just starting out, and just fall a bunch of times, get up and continue with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, what's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to have an error, break it, like break the program, and then just do something and then break it and then repeat. And that's how it goes. And then eventually your errors will get smaller and smaller.
What I was saying though, like, some people, they're afraid that they're going to get judged. And the reason I bring this up is because it's a big fear of allowing people to get more out there and build a community around what they're doing. And I know you have a bunch of stuff you've done on your YouTube channel about like, and you're not doing YouTube for YouTube. You're just doing like, hey, this is something cool I learned, and you just wanted to share it with people. And I think that's awesome. And it's like you put yourself out there, and I'm sure some of the stuff that you did like early on, you probably like, oh, there was a better way of doing it now, or like, why did I do that? And so there's that learning process to everybody. But should people be afraid of like kind of getting out there and talking about their code? What are some of the benefits that you found by, let's say, making a video or talking to someone about your code and trying to like explain to them what it does?
It's like, I guess it's like the new way of journaling. So you get to verbalize your thoughts and then say, oh, like you might come to a solution while you're just talking to the camera. It's a way to kind of be a soundboard for yourself, I guess. I mean, that's kind of how I feel about it. You're like, oh, and then you explain what you're doing. Like when I made my last, like when I was playing around with a QR code for two-factor authentication.
Yeah.
I had to remake the whole thing and like review it, and then say, hey, I need to break these functions down before I make this video because this is ugly. And I just was talking to myself, and as I was redoing the project while I was recording it, I was like, oh, I can do it this way now. And you just kind of just talk to yourself while you're making it. So it's an active way of reviewing what you've been learning.
Yeah.
And then just sharing it.
Yeah, no, it's same for me. And this is something I learned like through like also doing the same thing. It's literally allows you to think about how you're going to talk about your code. And what I realized after like doing it for like a while is that I actually got better of thinking how to explain my code to others, which is definitely going to be helpful for people in the interview. And some of the people that I've seen who stop doing tutorials. Yeah. Go ahead.
No. That is a good way to get better at explaining yourself. You do have to communicate with your coworkers, right, about what's happening. Yeah, that's a really important skill.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, everybody who jumped off the tutorial wagon as soon as possible and started building their stuff from scratch. Every time they show you the code that they wrote themselves, where they struggled through and then they figured it out and fixed it, they're really good at explaining what it does. And I think like you need to know how to do that. You need to be able to explain your code, like for interviews at your job, like what have you. And the only way you could learn to explain code better is to actually write the code yourself from scratch. And so here's like a cool pro tip that I found, like, because I'll be honest, I'm guilty of copying and pasting code sometimes, especially if it's something that you've done before and you're like, I don't want to like rewrite this. It's very similar functionality. Let me just start with this starting point, like a template. But one of the engineers that I work with at our company, he doesn't do that. Even if it's copy and paste, or he's like, oh, it's just like from our documentation, something that repeatable, he'll still type it out, because he wants to have like the memory of remembering, like if he were to not have access to the documentation or whatever, like to be able to type it out himself. And so he chooses, even though it's more convenient to copy and paste, he still chooses to type it out himself. And, and I was like, wow, that's amazing. And so like, I'm like going to start doing that too, because the more you write something, the more you type something, the better you're going to be at it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, we had the same concept when when we had to do our labs. They took all internet access away from us,
Holy cheese, nice.
and
Oh God.
this is the weed out courses for CS. It was like 161, 162, and
Oh
this
my
is
God.
2019, and yeah, our labs. She said, no, yeah, we don't have. We had to write all of our class. We had to like create classes in C++, and then complete the assignments. Yeah, and then no internet access, no documentation. Do it.
Wow, that is actually
uh,
something
yeah,
that it's a good like thing to keep in mind, and like obviously don't cut off your internet, but think like that. Like, what if you didn't
yes,
have access to something? Can you do it? And
yeah.
wow, like I
Muscle
think
memory,
I would struggle. I would
muscle
struggle like
memory. Yeah, it's
yeah, yeah,
training.
yeah. It is. No, that's a
It's
good point.
sharpening
That's
that knife.
yeah, exactly, and it's so cool.
I
So
like that engineer. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And what projects are you currently like? Do you outside of school? Do you have any personal projects that you like excited about and working on?
Yeah. I just I had this concept because I'm on Upwork and I see all the Fiverr and I'm not top toll is pretty good actually, but I recognize that no one's really focusing on the client on getting helping them identify what they need to do
Yeah,
and then properly planning it. Like Upwork kind of just throws the client in there and then finds some person at A and then slams them together if they say
yeah.
okay. But there's no, and then they have a text field where they just enter a paragraph of oh, blah, 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 I need this and
Which
this and
is
this. Like what? So I have I was writing out um, a plan to make a platform that brings the client and developer together to plan and estimate and deploy their projects. It's at
nice.
it's at solidifyproject.io. That's the landing page.
Yep.
Uh, I mean, sign up for the newsletter. I'll keep it updated. Yeah, it's solidifyproject.io.
Yeah.
And I'll just post updates. It'll slowly evolve over time. And uh, yeah, check it out.
No, yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. I think I think it's important to think about like programming from the standpoint that programming is a tool, but and I know people say that all the time. Like people are gonna be like, oh, look at him. But the point is that the way you got to look at it is, in majority of cases, is think of like a business problem and how you're able to solve it, because that's what people pay for. Nobody pays you money for coding. It seems that way. It seems you're getting paid for coding, but you, if you're working for a company, they identify the problem, they have a solution that they need to build, they already have that, and then they're like, oh,
Mhm.
let's pay some developers to execute and build it for us. But if that thing did not exist, if that problem didn't exist and they didn't have a solution, you wouldn't make money as a developer. And so I feel like
Yeah.
just learning to code for the sake of coding, it's a great place to start. But I feel like if you want to better understand how to create like solutions, you have to start thinking about, problem solving, not just like technical problems, but what are common things people are experiencing where you could create a solution that's going to help them. And that's going to be like a business idea that may succeed. And I say may succeed because like there's so
Yeah.
many like business gurus online, but
Yeah.
majority of businesses fail and nobody really hits it big on their first like business endeavor. So like if for those of you who are thinking I'm just going to be self-employed and I'm going to kill it, just understand it's also hard. That's one thing
Yeah.
actually I wanted to chat with you. So like I know you're like getting a computer science degree, and I know you're the comment you made. It's like people should learn more about like business development stuff like that. Number one is like why do you think that's important to you, and then I'll ask my follow-up questions after that, I guess.
Well, because I mean, the main purpose for anything whether it's whatever business is, you're seeing a problem and you're solving it. Otherwise, what are we doing? I mean, it would be great to just create beautiful things that you could just look at, but just, art solves a problem of just putting something, adding, something nice to something, a blank canvas. So that's a problem that art solves, but it doesn't have an applicable problem to, like actual things. It doesn't keep
Yeah.
people fed. It doesn't, save people time. Um, so we have to solve problems, and the only way to do that is to have a business of whatever problem you're trying to solve,
Yeah.
and then just working within I don't even know like what it would be called, but you're working with other people, and it's kind of a circle of you're actually extending one hand and the other, and you're connecting with the business world to solve
Yeah.
problems, and you're now involved in that exchange. I mean, that's how I see it. I'm probably wrong, but I don't,
No, no,
it's
that
the
makes perfect sense. I know, like one of the biggest trends, it's product-led marketing, where basically they uh, identify a problem and they have a product that solves the problem for the client. And I feel like as
yeah.
a developer, you need to know that, because otherwise, like, how the hell do you know what to code? Like, how do you know that what you're doing will be marketable, or like solve a problem that you're going to get paid for? And I feel like once you understand that, you're also able to plan your project better. And yeah, sure, when you work for a company, they tell you what to do, and that's perfectly fine. But at some point, as you grow as a developer, maybe you'll have a brilliant idea and you want to like implement it, understanding that to being like, it's not so much the code that I write, but it's a tool that allows me to help somebody else have better quality of life through some solution that product that I make will solve. And I think that's like super important, because like I have like bunch of ideas, but like at the same time, it's like I want to make sure that I have an idea that is going to be helpful to other people. And so that's something that I started thinking about when trying to create projects. One project that I had that I stopped for a while because I'm just learning so much stuff and busy at work, but I had that devhunt.io, where I wanted to create a thing where developers could come in and share their projects, and they could get upvoted based on the type of projects that make. And it's a way for them to be part of the community, share what they're learning, have others get involved and helping them. But then I wanted to like have a section for recruiters that basically will come in and they could see the top 10%, and they could have access to those developers that they know are already vetted by their community of knowing what to do. So it's like a great way to connect good self-taught developers who are ready to get hired with recruiters. And so that was like the idea I had. And I was like, and that type of thinking allowed me to identify what that project should look like, but if I didn't have the end in mind, and this brings us to this question what Sharon said, it's not like, I don't think it's a question, let me pull it up, but she said, so what do you think about finding a project by coming up with a problem to solve and working backwards logically? Like, I need my thing to do A, so it needs B needs C, and so forth. And I think it's like a really good comment that she made. What do you think?
So how I'm doing it is I'm taking everything I've been learning. I'm creating the actual diagram of uh, the the entire flow of onboarding a developer, onboarding a client, what that flow looks like from each user perspective, and I'm planning on how where does that tunnel lead? How do I want the client to interact? Like how do I want to get like, how I want their answers to be presented?
Yeah.
How do I want to submit their information? What information do I want to collect from them for their problem? And how do I connect them to the development team that's already ready to take payments? They've already formulated their group, and they're in my database. And then once once those two user perspectives are created, what do I want the dashboard functionality to include? So I want
Yeah.
the use of Gantt charts. I want to give the client a proper estimation of each task that they want completed. And I want the Gantt chart to then process and total and give a client the estimate once the development team has come back, discussed it, or has discussed it, and then come back to the client with an estimation of how long this will take, how much it'll cost. At that point, the client has the option to either agree or disagree to the terms, and then they're, nice cat, fully involved in the process, however much they want to be. They just want to keep updates, like keep updated on the progress to relieve their anxiety about anything or give input. They can do that from the dashboard. And it's just, I don't, I'm before I write any line of code,
Oh my
I'm
god, I was just
thinking
about to bring
about
that up.
how all this, I'm planning out what do I want to do?
Dude,
And how do I want to do it?
this is
And
this
then,
this the secret right there. What you just talked about is the secret. Before you continue, sorry to jump in to interrupt, because like this is something that I've made a mistake where when I start coding or when I start like I'm gonna build this, the first thing I do is fire VS Code, and that should be the last thing that you do. And so the fact that I was gonna bring up until you literally mentioned it, like what you were discussing, I was gonna say you do all of this before you write one single line of code.
no,
And
actually, what I'm doing is I'm like, oh, it's like it's just like the movies, and
yeah,
I'm like, oh. Anyways, yeah,
yeah. So no, here's the thing that I was saying. Like, regardless, like, let's say like you're serious and you're like, okay, I'm gonna fucking like write it. Sorry for swearing because I'm excited, but like I'm gonna type coding like it looks like you're watching like some hacker movie like whatever, and you just
yeah.
piles of stuff. But the fact is, if you don't identify what that flow is gonna look like, if you don't plan it out like on paper or in your mind, what have you, you don't know the journey of how things are gonna get connected, how let's say the clients and the customers are gonna work together. If you don't think about that, you typing code without doing that work up front, it's going to be like almost impossible. And this is why I started realizing why a lot of these algorithmic challenges are important where you're doing whiteboarding, is because you're literally walking through the solution in your mind before you actually start writing code. And I think that's like very important for people to know that when you're starting out, it's very easy to be like, I'm going to like type in code and like whatever. And then you're just going to make like maybe you'll make a small to-do app project, but to make something of significance, and this is something that I had to learn the hard way, is that you do have to do all that work that you just mentioned to plan it out and to kind of understand how things are going to be engaged, and then how is your UI going to reflect based on all the business logic that you want to implement between like the client and customers in your example. And I think like that's one of the things that I want to talk more to people about is how do you plan your coding project before you actually start coding?
How? Well, I go to, what is it called, diagrams.net. So like, do you remember that idea I had where I was like, hey, how do you like, I want to make something where put your ideas down and then it bubbles. Well, it's already exists. Um, and one thing I use is diagrams.net. It allows you to um, just make flowcharts, um, database designs, uh, anything. Just put your ideas down and then
Oh, that's
make the flowchart.
I just checked it out. I think I used it like once online, but I didn't know they had like a local version that you could run on your
Yeah,
computer.
yeah,
That's kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
cool.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I use, and I don't make it complicated. If I need a bubble and I need a line, I'll just connect it. I don't like. I get the idea,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
but yeah, that's basically what I use.
So let me ask you this: like, from your learning experience, 4 years into it, like, what has been the most challenging thing for you?
Finding something that actually solves a problem that I think is a problem, and they might not even succeed, but finding a problem to solve that's a problem.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was
yeah,
like finding something. It was a search. It was like I'm looking. Now I feel like I have it, and yeah, my eyes are, all my thoughts are focused on this one thing.
Yeah, it's funny, like, because everybody has an idea. And I remember I was coding at a coffee shop. This was actually a pretty funny story. And I'm just like coding, like whatever. And this guy comes up to me. He's like, "Oh, you're a developer?" I'm like, learning. This was like a while ago before I even like knew what the hell I was doing. He's like, "I got a great idea." I'm like, "All right, I wanted to be polite. Let's hear it." And he's like, "So I own a bunch of cars, and like it would be cool if I could connect, clients to drivers, and then they could like use the app to, you know, uh, connect and get a ride." I'm like, "So like, insert any car company that already exists that does that,
Yeah. Do
uh,
you have
eh,
insurance? Do you
yeah,
have,
yeah." And then all this other stuff, exactly all those questions. Like, no, no, no. And then I'm also trying to tell him, like, well, how's it going to be different than Uber? He's like, because like, and he's literally describing the same features that Uber has. And I'm like, look, it's an idea, but it doesn't mean like it's already been solved. And this is challenging, is to figure out how to create an idea which either solves a new problem or solves an existing problem in a different way that helps you stand out in the competitive market. And that's something
yeah,
important to kind of consider. And this is why I tell people, like, being self-employed versus getting a job. To me, it's still getting hired as a programmer, developer, software engineer, whatever you want to call it, is way easier than to be successful being self-employed. Because when you're self-employed, you have to do everything, including identifying what those ideas or solutions to your customers are. Where when you work as a software engineer, you go and you have a certain responsibility that's within the scope for that company. And so I always tell people, like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with being self-employed, but understand that realistically, for you to be successful at it, not only do you have to be good at your craft, which could be programming, there's all these additional things that you have to know to be successful.
yeah. I think, and tell me, anyone listening, I want feedback. I don't want to just feel like I'm telling people what to do. I know I'm here. My focus is identifying what clients need, what people need first. I'm naturally always just user faced
Yeah.
of, hey, what do you, how do we break your problem down into small steps? So, whatever this, so for example, whatever this project that I'm building turns out to be, whether it's a fail or somewhat, whatever it turns out to be, I, w- I'm I'm still getting skills because there's still problems within my idea that I
Yeah.
haven't solved. And I think, tell me if this is correct or if it sounds odd or anything, but if you're learning to code or you're learning, um, get involved with an idea or an existing project and help them out,
Yeah.
and then work. If the idea already exists, get in that lane and face the same direction and start traveling
Yeah.
until you see an opportunity to, like you said, create a solution to a problem that's tangent, or not tangent, but parallel to
Yeah.
the existing product that exists. Just solves a problem within that community.
Yeah, subset. Yeah, no, I think that's awesome. And that's something I didn't do early on. I wish I did, is get involved in other people's projects and working. And because the faster you get part of the community, the faster you will get a better understanding, like not only like how to solve problems, but how to work with a community, how to work with other developers, how to discuss like what you're working on, the workflow in Git, which is very important. So there's plenty of open source projects. And I think like that in itself, just to learn the workflow of Git, how to properly submit, pull requests, how to submit issues and bug reports and stuff like that. Like I think getting involved in an open source community just for that is just would be so valuable,
Yeah.
outside of all the other things that you mentioned.
I mean, I wish I would have gotten a job, kind of, in the like a early job. Like I haven't interned or worked for an actual company, um, but I kind of just been riding solo
Yeah.
up until this point. I haven't really applied to anything, so This is the only thing that I felt was right for me is to make my own thing.
Yeah.
And just that idea is set in concrete. Like I got to make my own thing first.
Yeah.
I have to experience it.
Yeah.
Then
No,
I'll
that makes
check it
sense.
out. But
Yeah, and I think like all the approaches that people have, like getting hired right away or like making your own thing or like what have you, they're all like, you know, like valuable ideas. The most important thing is being committed to what you're doing. The one thing that I would say is that don't try to do too many different things at once where it draws your commitment away from what you're trying to accomplish. And so I think having that focus of what you want and going full-heartedly in it is way better than jumping around a bunch of
Yeah.
different things, especially if you're like older. Like time doesn't come back. Like once we waste time, we waste time. And you know, it's okay to do like activities that you like, but at the same time being mindful of it and understanding is like, hey, if I do this, that means I might not be doing this, and that other thing could be like good for, you know, your getting better at coding or finishing up your thing or, you know, whatever it is it may be. And so how do you manage your time like when it comes to like programming? Like I know like it's very important to have, you know, life work balance. What do you do and like to stay sane?
well, I work out in the morning. Like, she'll go to work at like 6:40, and then I'm already up by like five
Damn.
at 5:30 work, and I'll get a quick workout in, and then I have the morning to be on my computer,
Yeah.
and I don't stop until I have to eat. Like I'll bake some chicken or something quick,
Yep.
and I just try to get as much done in the set focused amount of time per day.
Yeah.
And just
And how many hours a day would you say you spend, like average?
now, like, realistically, it's of solid coding or like producing something, probably 4 to 6 hours.
Wow,
The
that's
rest is spent
amazing. That's amazing.
like reading, and
Yeah,
I'm just like, that is, it seems like I could do more than that, but
but
like
that's even crazy. The fact that like 4 to 6 hours of solid coding, like, and this is like what a lot of people have to realize when you're learning to code. Time doing coding matters of where you actually doing the thing, and then obviously like reading and the docs and figuring stuff out, but you can't just do like all theoretical stuff. It has to be like a good portion of actually executing um, and doing the thing that you're doing. It's like I could like think about like bungee, like again, like parachuting or whatever in my mind, watch videos about it, but unless like I do the steps to learn what it's like, that's probably not a good example because I'm too scared to go parachuting. I'll admit it. It's like you need to actually do the actual skill to get better at it.
yeah, especially with Flutter. Like today I have to go help my previous landlord. I take care of her lawn. So I'm going to drive about 45 minutes after this, take care of the lawn, go swimming, hit the bag for a little bit, then drive back up here and hopefully have some time. That's a tangent though, but there's more to life than this though also.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because I used to put away, like I always enjoyed music. I suck at it. I don't really play an instrument. I could kind of like play like 2, 3, 4 chords, always the same chords, always sounds like monotonous. But like to me, it just gives me so much like excitement when I like press a button and I hear a sound. Like I can't describe it, but it's just like so cool. But I've always put it off. Like I've never I was like, and now I'm like, you know what, screw it. Like you work so hard, you finally have a job. It's like you need to have some free time for yourself, even if it's for a little bit. And the interesting thing, the company that I work for, they actually will look at you from a negative light if all you do is sacrifice yourself for the company. They see that as you don't know how to balance work and life. And so they don't want to have those type of employees because they want someone to know that they will work at work, do their best that they can.
Yeah.
They're always going to be learning new things, but when they're home, they're making sure that they're also enjoying life because they know that the best people who will be the most productive, and this is also to answer like Sharon's question, she says, do you find coding mental concentration just as tiring as physical effort? And yes, and this is like, I think why our company really where I work, puts a big emphasis on this work-life balance, because that's what rejuvenates your mental concentration, is like being able to do other things where you don't exhaust it or don't give enough time to kind of feel rejuvenated to start to work the next day, you know?
Yeah. It's like working out, you know, if you go 100% every single day, lifting, or anything too hard, you're going to burn yourself out.
Yeah.
I've learned that the hard way.
Yeah.
I just kind of consistency. Just keep
I'm like
it.
saying, yeah, because I don't lift weights right now. And so I'm like,
Well, I don't like, you know what I'm saying though. Like I'm not.
No. I know what you're saying, but I'm just saying, like, man, I got to do that too. It's good for your health.
I need it. Like I go crazy.
yeah, exactly.
But yeah, it's like slow, steady progress is better than rapid effort one day and then no effort. You know, it's like slow, consistent. That slow burning wick.
Yeah, it makes
will
so
last
much
the
sense.
longest.
Yeah, that makes so much sense, because like imagine driving, going from like 0 to 150 in like a second, and then slamming your brakes because something's coming your way. And that's like what inconsistency is. It's better to just drive steady, see all the turns, know what to expect, and have enough time to like react rather than like crashing and burning. And I think it's like the same thing. That's something that I had hard time learning. This is what people don't know about me. I'm like a very extreme personality. Like I either do things like all in and crazy, or I don't do it at all, which is not healthy for.
But it's also fun.
It is fun, but at the same time, it's like you realize that there's more to life than just like going like but that's but sometimes you need it. This is the thing I tell people, like the older you are, like man, like people like hate when I say stuff like this, because everybody always wants to hear like, I'm not saying it's a negative thing, but I'm saying like the older you are, there's this true case of like the time is not on your side in terms of learning stuff. And so you do like, one of the best things that I learned is saying no to a lot of things will give me time to do the right things. And this is why I was like really guilty when switching careers, like getting into music or doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for fun because I love it. Is because I felt like until I get a job, I need to make sure that the time that I have available, I'm being productive with it, because at the same time, I'm going to be competing with other people that had more time to do this thing. But one thing that I also realized, because I am older, there's certain other skills that I have, like level of maturity. I'm just making that up so you guys and girls think that I'm mature. But level of maturity, understanding what it's like to be responsible from my past experience working on different jobs, of what it's like to work with other people, all of that is important. And one of the interesting things I saw like a couple of jobs ago, my boss said to me like, listen, I hired you, like you're not like the best developer. I was like, well, I don't want to hear that. But he goes to me, but you're so good working on the team. You understand how to be effective with other people. You know how to, and he said like coding, you will learn. But the people skill that help the team to be productive, that's something that is hard to find. And this is something that I found out as being older. I didn't even know that was like an issue people had. I was like, this is just what a normal adult would do at work. And that was kind of funny to me. So here's a good question. Mahir asked, I'm really bad with names, so I apologize. When learning through tutorials, which can be a long process, would it be good to parallel work on building a project? So you could give your thoughts on this first, then I'll give my thoughts based on my experience.
I mean, the tutorial. So if I were to look at a tutorial right now, it would only be to see how they solved the problem. I wouldn't watch the whole thing.
Right.
Like, and then I wouldn't even look at the tutorial. Like a tutorial. It's just too. I don't like the video. Like the video is so like I don't want to get.
Oh my gosh, there's so much to unpack here. Yeah.
So I'll rather just. That's why text format is so much better for me, because it gets to the point. It's like, okay, this is how you solved it. Just get to the point.
Yeah. You know? So. Yeah. So here's the thing I would say here. Like if you're just starting out, like if you're brand new, what we kind of talked about it, don't be stuck in tutorial hell. You don't need to take 10 courses or 20 courses. You could literally take 3-4 courses in the thing that you need. Like if I was to, like, I'll use this as an example. If I was learning HTML and CSS, I would take 1 course for that. Then I would move to JavaScript, 1 course for that. Then when I do React, 1 course to that. And what I would do is like, if you're just starting out, this is the exact process that I follow now. Take the course, do everything exactly what they show, do all the projects in the course, understand it, complete it. Once you're done with the course, before moving on to another course, build a project from scratch based on what you learned in that course. And that's kind of like in general the approach that I take. But as soon as you can, after like for instance, like when you go to first grade math class, the second year, you don't take that same first grade math class again, and you don't do the third year or fourth year of school, right? The level of complexity, you take math level 1, level 2, level 3, and it should be the same thing in your development. So like after, like level 1 for me, it's like do the basic introductions to programming, like in, like, let's say it's JavaScript, whatever language you want. But once you're done with it, you don't need it anymore. Then start building stuff yourself, building stuff based on what you read in documentation. And here's a funny thing that I want to say that you brought up just now, is that how you hate watching videos. And no like developer like has time, like if they're mid-level or a senior, to watch videos to get information. It is way more efficient to look at the code snippet, documentation, like GitHub like thing. And that's something that I'm finding myself. And I do videos and I make videos, but I think in terms of like, once you understand the basics and you're able to look at something and understand the context where it fits, like reading stuff is the fastest way to get to the answer that you're looking for. And sometimes, like if I'm really confused, then I'll watch a video to understand the big picture of the flow, or have someone like explain something to me. But 99% of the time, like I'm reading stuff at this point. And I know it sounds bad because I'm on YouTube making videos about coding. But if you watch like some of my coding videos that I do, I'm not referencing other videos. I'm referencing documentation on how to get stuff done. And it's kind of interesting that I went from loving videos. I still love videos, but I just don't use them as much anymore.
Cattail. Yeah, like I would hope that people listening to this or watching it are like cooking breakfast or something while they're just like, oh yeah, I agree, or I disagree with that. Like they're doing something else. Like they're not like sitting there just like staring at it. Like it's they're listening to a conversation about one person's experience, but they're also doing something. Like I don't know what you have to move past the tutorials, because they get you to a point that then at some point they start hindering you, and you're only going to make something unique or add addition to something when you start using your mind.
Yeah. So exactly. Ben has like a bunch of cool questions. He says, like, can you give one example of coworkers with bad people skills versus good? I worked at a very toxic company as my first job, and literally the senior developer, he would not talk to you because he was like, you're beneath me, you're stupid. So whenever you have to like work and you have a part of your project that requires you to communicate with a senior developer who literally thinks of you like you're the dumbest person in the room and doesn't want to talk to you, they will literally like make working with you hard. And those are the type of people you don't want to have in the company. And the only reason why that person didn't get fired is because he wrote a piece of code. This was like in C++ that nobody really understood how to like work or maintain. So he kind of like made himself kind of holding the company hostage by not sharing what he's doing with others. So, because he's afraid that he's going to get fired, but also because of that, he doesn't work well with others. So that's like a really like bad example of someone who's like a complete like idiot. And the first chance that they get, the company's definitely going to fire that person for sure. Like, because the point is, and like a good working experience would be like where I work with other developers. If I ask them a question, you know, they're very helpful and they look at it this way. If I take a few minutes to help Paul out, that means not only is he going to know how to solve this and not ask me this question again, meaning that he actually going to learn something. But if somebody else in the company that has that same question, now they don't have to come to me. Paul has the knowledge and the skill to be able to answer. So like the idea of like a good working environment, there's many different examples, but the good working environment where everybody helps everybody to get better at what it is that they're doing, because they understand that they work on a team. There's no that solo developer who, you know, like the initial example I showed, who kind of like is like hides everything and doesn't share anything. But the company that I work for right now, part of the interview, they do they test you on your values as a person. And if they see that your values don't match the culture of the company, they won't hire you. And I thought that was like very interesting, because I realized that when you're spending time at work with people, you're spending like a big part of your day with them. And
Yeah.
you should work with people that you're able to communicate on a human level. If someone is a jerk, maybe they're very skillful, that's not the type of person they want to have in the company. And from my experience, because like people say like, Paul, you're really nice, like whatever. And it's not by chance. It's not by design. Like when I was younger, I used to be very negative, very angry person. I had a lot of like temper issues, which people don't even notice about it anymore. But I realized the nicer I was to others, the nicer they were to me in return. And that applied through not just like my friends, but through my work. And so people that generally like you will be more likely to help you to succeed. And this is something that I've noticed. And this is the teams, like when I work on companies, that's kind of like what I want to expect and do.
Yeah, that sounds like a really good working environment. I definitely want to work with people because I know I can't do all this myself.
Yeah,
It's just too much time. Like it's a lot of stuff to do. So yeah, definitely, you got some spam bots in there. Yeah.
that's all good.
Um,
That's how you
I
know.
think we've all had people that are kind of like, oh yeah, I know this, so you can't replace me. Haha. Like, okay, okay, I
Yeah,
get it. You're
yeah.
special. Like, I get it.
Ben has a funny comment. You're wearing a shirt with pink pineapples on it. How mean can you possibly be? Exactly. Seriously. But the funny thing is, like, I used to do mixed martial arts and Brazilian Jiu Jitsu where, like, I literally in competition either had my arms broken or broke other people's arms. Not saying it that I'm just saying that I have that capability in me to be mean if I want to. And it's much easier for me to be mean, believe it or not. But I realized that that type of attitude just does not serve you at all. No matter where you are, you're never going, unless you like defending the country, then you need to be like the biggest badass. Like you need to have that attitude. But in terms of work, like, and you work with other people, having that mentality just doesn't help. Like, so I always err at the side of being nice. It just serves so much better.
Yeah. I had a question about how you feel about being trapped in the how web development is trapped in the DOM model or the document object model, and whether or not you think the browser and how people experience sites should change.
That's a really good question. Like, I don't even know the answer for that. But what I do know is I really like this concept of virtual reality and augmented reality. And so I
Mm-hmm.
have a VR headset, and like right now it's still in its infancy, and I don't see like it taking over now, especially like VR. I think augmented reality, where you could have the VR experience, but you could also see the outside world, is definitely going to change how we experience data. And I don't know like when that's going to happen, but I definitely know 100% that it's going to happen, and it's going to shift stuff away from like our computer screens to like literally our retinas at some point. And I feel like the interface will have to change, and like what that's going to, I mean, it could still be web based, but like, I don't know. I think
Yeah,
there's definitely going to be some stuff that's changing.
I only ask because I was looking at Flutter and they do it completely different than, it's not HTML, CSS, JavaScript. It'll compile down to, you can compile to JavaScript, but I have to look more into it. And, but yeah, they do it completely different. Their view of how Google made Flutter was, to me, I think it's probably the way I want to go. Um, but I don't know. It's just, I think of the browser as like a delivery mechanism. So like I just think we're constrained to HTML. We bound ourselves to HTML when its only purpose was to deliver text documents, and now we're
Yeah.
asking it to do all these things that it's not designed to do, and we're trying to work around this problem that we could avoid by thinking differently about how to deliver content on the web.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like a thing that is the best thing for now to allow us to do the things that we want to do. But I'm sure things are going to evolve. And this is where I tell people, like, when you're getting to development, you're a lifelong like student, and that type of attitude is going to allow you to succeed in whatever you do. Like, I have a friend, actually, I was talking to him about it a while ago, and maybe some of you are not familiar, but like Flash used to be like super popular in dev,
yeah.
and it was like there's certain things you were able to do, and then one day Apple and the browsers, they decided, you know what, we're not going to support it, and like killed like, you know, particular tech that like was very common, and he just pivoted and became a JavaScript developer. You know what I mean? And I think it's important to understand that as you work as a developer, things are going to change. Understand and be kind of open to changes, and you know, some things will stick around, some things won't. But that's the mental model you should have in terms of being successful. It's like you will learn the thing that you need to learn to be productive, whatever it is. If HTML dies and something else comes up, like you have the ability to learn it. And that's one of the reasons, like, you know, like I still like value my time. So I try to find things that are relative to what I'm doing. So for instance, I'm really big on React. So I'm learning Remix right now, which is, you know, fairly new. And I think it has a lot of potential, but it's still too early to say like, is it going to stay? Is it going to go? But I'm still investing a lot of time because like, or some of my time, I should say, because they're doing certain things like really awesome and I liked it. And so for me, like right now, I really focus on Next.js or Remix. And I heard a lot of people talk about Rust. And I was like, I've never tried Rust, but I was like, you know what? I want to like check it out, like see what does it bring to the table? Like, and
Yeah.
what can you do with it? And having that open-mindedness to be like, you know, like, yeah, I'll learn this thing if I have to. By the way, this is like the one like superpower I think web development or programming in general has, is that no matter where you start, right, and what age you start, and sure, it's going to be hard and difficult. It was like really difficult for me to make a transition, but there's always going to be a new thing that's going to come out that you can start learning. And because it's literally like brand new, nobody's going to have 12 years of experience. So if you really become good at this new technology that's taking over like whatever the world, it's like you're going to be on the same footing as somebody else. And you have that kind of like ability to jump in and make yourself valuable because you're willing to learn the thing that's like, you know, popular or in demand, I should say.
Yeah, yeah. Again, like don't be afraid to learn something
Yeah.
new. But the only way that I knew how to like I don't know it. Like I definitely don't have much experience, but I would only know that this is a problem, that the DOM is a problem, or it probably is the problem that we're trying to solve because I see it every day.
Yeah.
I got familiar with it. You know, I bounced back and forth from, you know, my CS courses to messing around in web and then back and forth like all the time. And I'm like, okay, well, we're trying to work around the problem of why the DOM exists. It's
Yeah.
designed to deliver text, nothing else. It's not designed to do all these things we're trying to make it do. But we have workarounds now. But you can only identify problems if you know what currently exists. So would you say that knowing how to like knowing why like knowing something and then identifying the problem is important? Would you say that's correct?
Yeah, right, 100%. Like
Okay.
you need to be able to like think that, and then understanding like, so like for instance, you know, there's certain things in JavaScript that people complain about, but it's like
Mm,
you can't like refactor it out because like it'll break the language, and so you kind of have
mm,
to deal with these inconsistencies and just like knowing the reason behind things. And it's like, well, yeah, we could fix it, but the reason we don't is because it's going to have this rippling effect. And same thing with like all these new technologies, like there might be better ways of doing things, but because there's such a huge adoption of the thing that we're using now, that a
mm.
lot of the infrastructure relies on it. So instead it's like, let's keep going with this until we find like a better solution that's also has like a better rate of adaptation, that's easier to implement, rather than like, so for now I'm assuming it's easier to convince like the DOM to do the things that we want to do than to completely create something else. And a lot of people say that's where WebAssembly is going to change things. We'll yet to see.
I hope so.
But yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
I hope so.
I make a joke. I make a joke that I will be able to write JavaScript that will compile to WebAssembly.
Okay, we're gonna all walk backwards too.
yeah, exactly. But that's my joke. No, I mean, like, the thing is, it's like, I'm willing to learn whatever it takes. I just wanted to get to some comments. Thanks for the reply. Haven't built John's projects from scratch, which I should do now. Yeah, so I'm saying, so this relies to any course. If you're doing tutorial, you're just starting out, by the way, because if you didn't hear our thoughts about getting out tutorial hell as soon as possible, you could watch the beginning of this live stream. But if you're just starting out, when you do a tutorial, complete all the projects in it. Don't try to rush to another tutorial. I have over 500 Udemy tutorials, which waste of money, to be honest, with how many I have, because like an HTML course from one instructor is going to cover 80% or 90% of the same topics of HTML course from another instructor. So you're literally learning the same thing from different instructors. So you don't need many courses, but what you do need to do is complete all the projects, all the practice to make sure that you're doing the things, like you learning the concepts so you don't have to relearn them and you could apply them as soon as possible in your personal project, or like when you start building stuff from scratch. And then let's see, when there's here's another question from, I'm just, God damn it. I'm like scrolling too much. How early is it too early to start applying? I'm feeling desperate currently to switch careers and have applied for jobs before. I know I'm ready, with caveat I need training. Am I wasting my time? First of all, Ben, how old are you? Like, I'd love to know. If you don't feel comfortable answering that question, you don't have to, but I'd love to know how old you are. And what do you think? How early is too early to start applying jobs? I think like you could just start applying as soon as you're able to do something minuscule, even for the sake that you're going to probably get rejected. But what you are going to get is you're going to get that experience of going to interviews and seeing what they're asking for, and knowing what the interviews ask will allow you to change what you should be learning to have a clearer path to being able to kind of get hired. So Ben, like, it's totally get it. Like, I'm 42 now. I actually started learning to code seriously at 36. I do have a daughter, but she's now old enough. She's 23 now. And she's in the Navy doing cool stuff, protecting the world. So respect to anybody that is any service. I think like in US, there's a lot of people that don't understand that the reason why we're able to talk shit on Twitter is because we have men and women that keep the world safe, which is like insane that a lot of people talk shit about those people. Anyway, sorry, I completely like diverge.
It's
a whole thing that we could talk about. Let's like keep it coding.
We don't even need to talk about it.
I just get so upset about it. Like, I get so like fired up, and people don't get it. But what I was gonna say, you're 30 years old, man. You're literally starting 6 years ahead of me. And just to give you an example, I got my first real dev job that I could like. I was like, this is like awesome at 39. So you're literally 9 years ahead of me. So have a like system, stay like consistency is the most important part. Don't be erratic like with your learning. I'm not saying you are, but those are the mistakes that I made. Be consistent and have a goal. And I would say once you learn HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and some framework, because I still feel getting hired as a front-end web developer is the easiest way, build 2 to 3 projects and just start applying. That's what I would do. Oh my God. Thanks, Ben, for making me feel even older than I already feel. Ben says, wow, I didn't realize that you started that late. You know what, Ben? I used to like you. No, I'm just kidding. I still like you, Ben. But the point, what I'm saying, this is why I have this YouTube channel, is to highlight to people that where's a will, there's a way. You're going to get this done. And the secret is putting in the work. That is the secret. Like, people are like, what's the fastest way to get a job, learning to code? There's things that will help you along the way. But the secret is, don't listen to people that are trying to like lie to you, and just do the work. Like, you need to do the steps. I don't know like what else to say on that topic.
That's like,
And John here, he says, best way to learn and getting a job should be building many small projects or big projects. Oh, that's the question. I thought he was giving advice because it all sounds good. What's your and our guest's take on this? So what I would say, start by building smaller projects from the tutorials that you learn. And because like I used to, so this is how I break it down. Have the ability to build as many smaller projects as you can. It's like a way for you to iterate on your learning process. So the faster you fail, the faster you will learn. And I still suggest people should have one big cornerstone project, which encompasses like everything you've been learning so far, which could deal with like, you know, full crowd functionality, how to handle authentication, even if it's from the front end only, would be important. But what I recommend to people, for your portfolio, you should have 2 to 3 projects, and one of those projects should be like something of significance, like a bug tracker or some sort of like team management, which has like the CRUD functionality and has some sort of authentication. Because I don't, or where you're working with an API to read and write data from a database, I think that's really needed to get hired and feel comfortable what you're doing. What do you think?
I mean, shoot, I haven't had a real dev job. You know, I've always just been doing my own thing.
But like
so
from doing your own thing, like there's a certain level of functionality you need to be like a client can use this. So like what do you think that is? Where you're like, okay, if I build this for a client, they could use it. It's a rabbit hole.
Patience. Like, so, how do I answer this question? Big project or multiple small projects? A project that solves a problem would be the most important thing. It'll outshine a calculator app or anything that's just kind of, oh, that's nice looking, but it doesn't solve a problem.
Right.
I mean, to me, that's more important than, oh, I built this thing that it's nice to look at. Yeah, I don't know. I build something that solves a problem or solves a problem in an existing that has a different take on an existing solution that maybe solves the problem in a better way.
Yeah,
I think for me, that's what I value.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes
for
sense.
the client, not, or if your clients are developers.
Yeah,
but it's always user facing, and
yeah,
you know, the person you're talking to is the most important person in the process, and you're helping them. So
yeah. Another thing that like a lot of people struggle with is this idea of getting involved in like community, getting out there and building like your own recognition experience. So like one of the reasons I started a YouTube channel, because I'm like some random dude like online that if you look back at some of the videos that I did, this was like before I even had a development job, right? I had no idea what I was doing. And so it was, one reason is to document my journey going from 0 to something, right? To where I am today. And having that as an example to tell people realistic timeline expectation of how long it could possibly take you to get hired. Some people do it faster, some people do it longer. Like it took me a long time to but it's still worth it. Even though it took me like 4 years to get hired, because I went from 36 to, well, 3 years through 39, whatever. But it's important for people to know that they have the real expectation of what it entails to break into the industry. But also another reason why I started the YouTube channel, and you don't have to, but I'm just saying like getting out there and doing your thing instead of waiting someone come to you is very important. So a lot of people that like, if I learn to code and I'm going to get a job. No, if you learn to code, nothing's going to happen. You're not going to get a job. And people are like, wait, what are you saying? To get a job, you actively have to go through reaching out to people to get hired and building a network to whom you could reach out with people that could give you referrals to get hired. So if you passively waiting for a job, it will never happen. You need to actively go after it. So I actually, just using YouTube as an example, by being vocal, like I started to become more familiar to other people and other developers on YouTube like started to recognize me. And so I actually had one time where I talked to one of the, like I met someone on YouTube and they're like, hey, our company's hiring. If you want, I could pass along your resume. So I literally had an interview from a connection I made on YouTube. And I think you have to actively search and present yourself in a, like be aggressive with that. If you're trying to switch careers, like waiting is like one of the worst traits that you can have if you're trying to get hired. You need to be doing, and we could talk more in detail in other streams what those steps are, and I talk normally a lot about them. But yeah, you got to do that. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you could have a session where you get people's perspectives on, you know, hopefully people come in who have different experience of getting hired, whether or not they started, selling themselves from the very beginning to people who waited. But do you think selling yourself is just as important as the skills you bring?
100%. Not
So
even gonna
yeah,
argue that. Not even gonna argue that. Like a lot of the reasons where I got to somewhere is because of that.
Yeah. So I mean, if you can't sell yourself, or if no one knows who you are, then you're just kind of doing it for fun.
Yeah, and I missed this one, but I think it's a good question. What are your views on data science? I'll give my quick thoughts, and then you can talk more about it. So I think it depends on because programming field is so like wide, and there's so many things you could do. And for me, the reason I don't go into data science is because to me, like I feel like there's a lot more I have to learn in terms of math and other stuff, and it's also not something I'm interested in. And so there's nothing wrong with it, but I feel like every different sliver of programming field has certain requirements, and some requirements people might be more inclined towards achieving than others. And so for me, I really like the creative part, the web development part, talking to the database and APIs, like through APIs. So I'm excited about that. So the area that I'm in makes sense, but for some people, data science makes sense. What I would say is whatever path you choose, right, they're all gonna have like great incomes for you, and some will have more than others. But more importantly, like if you don't have some affinity towards the thing that you're doing, it's always going to be a struggle. So like when I was trying to make a decision of what to learn, is like I wanted to pick something that I have a natural inclination to first, because I didn't want to fight myself too much through the learning. I'm not saying I can't learn data science. I just know myself that it's going to be something that I would be fighting myself the whole time. So I think like identifying what that is for you and making that decision based on that is just going to make it easier. For instance, like I'm really good like at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I've done it for a long time, and I always had affinity for wrestling and doing physical things. And not saying like, which is opposite when it comes to music. Let's say music is really hard for me. Like I don't have natural like talent for it, and so like it's harder to learn. So I was able to like in my life from other people's and listening to what they're saying, kind of realize that it's okay to do whatever you want, but if you have something that you're naturally inclined towards, choose that, because that way you have your hard work plus you take advantage of your natural like talents, if you will, even though like if you don't do the work, it doesn't matter anyway. But I hope that made sense. That was like the longest winded answer I gave for a simple question. What do you think about data science?
I would ask, what does data science mean to I don't know who asked it, but what does it mean to you, and why are you interested in it? To me, data science is looking at, well, first you've formatted all the data for what you want. You have objects, and you collected all of it into an organizable format. And if you haven't, you have to organize it. And then you hope to learn something from it, right? From like a basic, I've never taken a data science course, but to me, you're trying to learn something from a large set of data to do what? What are you trying to do with it? And then once you answer that question, then start building.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense. I just gonna say, even just a brief description you just described, which I know that's what data science is. Like, I have no desire to do that.
Yeah.
personally. And I think like
Yeah.
that's why I much rather use solutions by data scientists and implementing them in my project rather than being the person that solved that solution that helps me achieve something. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I think it's important to keep that in mind.
So yeah, whoever asked the question, what's is data science also known as data mining? I don't.
I don't know.
It's
Even know
it's
the
I don't know.
proper.
It's such a data science. Well, science is experimenting, learning, repeating. Data is information you collect, right?
Yeah, and somebody
So
says, can
maybe
a
get a data.
sorry, someone says, can a fresher get into data science field? I feel like you'll be more likely to get into data science. I know it's possible without a college degree, but a lot of data scientists that I know, like either have math degrees or CS degrees. So I haven't met someone who got into data science
Statistics.
without like some sort of college degree or had an easy
Yeah.
time. From my personal experience, I'm sure there are people out there who are getting into it, but I feel like something like that requires certain subjects that you need to be good
Yeah.
at.
Well, I know I will all CS degrees, all I think for engineering, electrical engineering, you need to take statistics and up to vector calculus and linear algebra.
Yeah, all those
And
things that,
I'm missing statistics and linear algebra.
yeah,
I don't have to take them. I don't have to take linear algebra unless I want to go as an elective. But statistics I have to complete this by the within 9 months. And then through statistics, I would have learned a lot about what data science is.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Statistic, yeah, that's the one class that everybody says they had to take.
yeah. So data science, if you want to learn it, probably check out stats.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um,
It was just
yeah, like there's so much stuff to learn. Like I'm interested in AI, but I don't think I would do anything like around it like professionally, just because like again, that's just something that realistically for me to if I had like the same amount of time learn like AI stuff versus learn like web dev stuff, I feel like web dev I would be able to get productive much faster knowing how I learn. But I'm still like excited and want to try some stuff about it, you know. But this is just, I definitely will say know what you want to do and where you are in life. And if you're starting out and you're not sure what to do, try to explore things quickly and fast. And then as soon as you're able to throw away the things that you, so I'll give you an interesting story. This story is just how when you know what you want and the faster you realize it, the better off you are. And this is like a ridiculous story. So I used to go to a university and I'm taking a business class. And the instructor there is like, hey, listen, if you want to be an entrepreneur and start a business and you have an idea, like you don't need to be in school, you just do it. It's like kind of like, and he said it kind of jokingly talking about like this idea, like, you know, like if you know what you want and you know what you have to do to get there, like just do it, right? Get through it. So like I dropped out of school like the next day, and then he calls me. He's like, "Oh, I didn't like see you in class. What happened?" I'm like, "Well, I like took your advice too hard. You said if you know what you want and you know how to get it, like just go and do it." And so like I literally dropped out and started my martial art and MMA school that I had for like for a long period of time, like 10 years, 15 years or something like that. And so I just did a business because like I knew what it was, you know, and that's like an extreme lesson, but this is what I realized. I'll give you a slightly better example. When I was trying to explore like what, because I like technical stuff. So I really wanted to go into networking and security. And then after taking like some networking and security classes, but I didn't graduate out of college, but I did take classes in college. After taking like a networking and security, I realized this was not for me. And I literally said a hard no where I'm like, I'm not even going to look at it from this point on in my life. I don't care about that because I don't want to do that. And this is what I want to do in programming. So kind of having the ability to quickly decide what you want to do and then focus, like you were saying earlier, having lanes that align and then building on top of that and building on top of that to move forward. And so that's kind of like what I did.
yeah. So I guess that reminds me and makes me want to give an additional answer to what you asked me earlier was like, what are the things that, like, some key, like, advice for anyone learning or how to get better is learn something you don't want to learn. Actually, like, some courses I didn't want to take at all, but
Yeah.
being there, I was forced to learn them, right? And it's probably harder when you're not, and when you don't have money on the line
Yeah.
or anything, to learn something you don't want to learn. But I learned a lot about networking and security. I learned how to make cron jobs, how to set up servers on AWS, create a VPN for myself,
Nice.
create a SIP server where you can take calls, get a 1-800 number for yourself. None of these things I would have wanted to learn, or I would have even. Well, I mean, it was actually kind of fun creating the SIP server, but like
Yeah.
I wouldn't have even known that this exists had I not been introduced to these courses.
Yeah, no, and that's a really good point you're making, and I feel like from that standpoint, is people definitely should explore. But for me, like being older, like I felt like I can't explore everything because I don't have time to do it. Like I need to
Right,
really
but
make a decision.
I'm
But like
saying,
I do get what you're saying.
yeah, like, oh, so what I'm saying is, like, there's tons of JavaScript developers, right?
Yeah,
But there's also a lot of people that need SIP developers, and
that is a good
like,
point.
so check out, what's it called? It's I have LinPhone, LIN phone. It's a open source platform for receiving and VoIP calls. There's tons of development work in that's available. Um,
That is such a
you
good point.
so like we had to, for our final project in network administration, we had to spin up a server that had one server located on the East Coast and West Coast, and you'd point them to one IP address, and you would call in using an interface like LinPhone to the SIP address. So I'd be, my name at Oregon State, blah blah blah. So it had the protocol and then my host. Anyways, look up this SIP address
Yeah, I was
structure.
just gonna say
Anyways,
you bring such a good point. You know, it would be awesome to have a website which has all these jobs listed, and then the skill that you need to have in order to get an entry level position. And like, I think you made a good point when you said everybody is a JavaScript developer. Like, as like that's what a lot of people think development is. But there's
yeah,
so
yeah,
many other jobs that are out there that you definitely make good money, and because they like niche in a very specific
yeah,
like area, you actually have a good chance of getting hired. And the only reason like why like this didn't occur to me is because I didn't even know. You know what I mean? And like you said, like to your point of taking these classes to learn about other areas where there's a need for people to get hired. And I think it'll be awesome for people to have like a list of what those jobs are, to know that it's not just JavaScript and web development. There's a lot,
yeah.
and it's not just data science, and it's not just AI. There's all these in between areas where if you get that skill, you're actually going to be like more hireable because it's a more specific niche which has a need and a problem to solve. And because it's not a common thing that people know about, I would assume there's not as much competition as like a JavaScript developer or a data science developer or like the most popular thing insert here thing. So that's actually like a really good point.
Right. So, yeah, because I mean, just to add on to that, to why I think it was important, our professor, he's actually the same age as me, but he brought up in our network, in that networking administration class, that he has a client that he's doing this project for, and he demonstrated that how he could call his phone it would act as an intercom for he had his phone next at his home, and he demonstrated how this was extensible to other services. To
Wow.
you basically you gain control of another device, and depending on how that device is set up, you could create an intercom service through
Yeah.
VoIP, through a SIP server. Create an intercom service. Say you have a list of employees, you want to give them all cell phones, but you don't want to pay for a cell phone number. Well, that
Yep.
SIP number will cost you $1 a month around,
Yeah.
and you can put them on a pager system to where you dispatch, on a need base, and it just forwards to their cell phone.
That's interesting. It's so cool.
Or you can act as an intercom, create something like Zoom for yourself. There's so many things that you can do that I just,
Yeah.
it's probably a tangent, but
yeah, and it's crazy because I had like a thing where I was like thinking about, we definitely need to have a website which has all these different areas of development for people outside of just JavaScript, just data science. Because you could definitely go down the rabbit hole of like just specializing in building chatbots, and that could be like your thing. And because it's more specific than like I'm just a JavaScript developer, I feel like it's going to make it more targeted way of getting a job. Or someone like developing programs for like things like Alexa or Google like Home, whatever that service is called.
yeah.
And I think that's kind of interesting idea of being able to niche down based on like a little subset of thing. And it's like a really great point you made. Now I'm like my mind now is like, oh, I gotta.
Yeah,
look into this
JavaScript's
more.
great. It's just I don't want people to just be like, well, I mean, I
Narrow,
would hope,
like
yeah, I think
like
that's the
this,
only thing you can
the
do.
blinders. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that's a
there's
good
only
point. And
React. There's only React. There's only
I know.
React.
I think I fall into that. Like I'm like, that's me. I'm
Is it?
glad I brought you in because that's exactly why I like to bring people, because to certain areas I am like this, and to have a conversation with others to kind of broaden the scope and let others, because not everybody's interested in like what I'm doing, and to know that they have a thing they get to do is actually really awesome.
Start with what it does, because yeah, it's like I don't know. So if I was learning on my own, it would, yeah, that's the scope
Yeah.
would be wider, but
Yeah.
it all depends on what you want to do.
So I like this statement. Another YouTuber says that you start with web dev because of the demand, but then once you're in, you can do whatever you want. So here's the thing, like YouTubers will tell you whatever they want because they want watch time. And I'm saying this, so I don't care, whatever. Like, here's the thing. The reason I started this channel and still have this channel, I don't make any money on this channel. Like if anything, like I lose money because this is the time I could do something else. The reason I do it is because I want to just share my journey, and it has to be my journey because I can't like talk about stuff that I didn't experience. And I want people to at least have a realistic view of what it's like to switch careers and what to do. But for me, my job is like I work at Strappy. That's my job. That's what the most important thing for me. Like, and I feel like there's nothing wrong with YouTubers, like, and you should be able to make money on YouTube. But the thing that I want to say is like everybody has an opinion, and some people's opinion is helpful, some people is not. And what you have to do is you have to do the work yourself. And instead of asking like a YouTuber, like who's successful on YouTube, you need to find another. It doesn't have to be me, by the way. There's plenty of people on like you, for instance, or other people on YouTube that literally are in the trenches of making that life change, of like getting hired. They're going through the work, like you going through the work of being like what it's like to graduate as a computer, you're still finishing up as a computer science degree student while managing like things that you're doing and building personal projects. Like you are more valuable to this conversation because you're doing the thing that you're talking about, right? Like for me, I'm still fairly new to the field. Like I understand the pain of what it's like switching careers. I was in the trenches. I just recently got my dream job that I hope they don't let me go because I like it there. I always still struggle with that imposter syndrome. Like the pain is real for me. So the advice that I give you is coming not from like, let me make content for YouTube. It's like, holy shit, I had this problem
this is how I solved it, right? That's where that's coming from. And I feel like there's nothing wrong with watching other YouTubes and finding motivation, but find people that are doing the thing that you want to do and they're not too many steps ahead of you. Like for instance, like I have a friend who's a developer. He works at Shopify. Every time I talk to him, I love him, but he gives me the most unrealistic advice. This was the advice he told me when I was going for my first job. He said, yeah, like there's so many developer jobs, like anybody could get hired. Whenever you go, just ask for like $150,000 a year. That's what he said to me. That was his advice to someone who never had a job, is because he's so disconnected from like people that are just starting out. And my first job, my coding job, I didn't even get, like I got $13.75 an hour. I'm not saying you should get a job for that low amount of money, but I worked for this company called VersaSuite, and they paid me $13.75 an hour. Like $13 is pretty much what I made at a supermarket. And I ended up continuing working at that supermarket while working my dev job because I was like, I have bills to pay. And I only did it because it was like when the pandemic started like happening, I literally was just like, I need to be employed. Then, you know, like just have employment rather than making more money. But the good news, like after a while, like I was able to switch companies and like whatever, and, you know, make more money. But the point is, it's, what I'm saying is, I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. But it's, you have to listen and follow people that are going through the pain, and they're able to give you lessons learned based on the pain they suffered and not based on opinions of others, if that makes sense. And this is why I do YouTube, is because I don't care if you like me. I don't care what I tell you, you agree with it or not, but I am going to tell you the truth of my experience, what it's like when I had no job, what it's like, you know, when you're getting jobs. Like for instance, one thing I tell people that no one will tell you, like some people will tell you, and this is like one important thing, is that if you don't make it your job to network and build a community and get involved in like meetups, talking and reaching out to friends who work at tech companies and having them, let's say, be able to refer you to their hiring manager, getting a job will be very difficult. Like that's really, and a lot of people don't want to know this because it's not cool. This idea of like, it matters who you know. It matters who you know. If like a lot of it, of getting your first job, 80% of it is knowing somebody that could put a good word in. And if people lie to you, they're like, no, anybody could do it. You could just do a bunch of resumes. That's not true. And so I'm not going to tell you something that's not true, even though it might hurt your feelings, because I want you to succeed, because I'm telling you things that like the reason for this YouTube channel is like, if I was 18 years old, like it would have been awesome to have a channel like mine or any other channel. There's plenty of channels that are honest like I am. And to give me real advice of like, okay, like, you know, like anybody, like to help me succeed. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if that makes sense. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore.
Yeah.
It's Saturday.
Yeah. I didn't even know that this was a degree path until I started searching for it. Think about how crazy that sounds. Like,
yeah, that is
I didn't
nuts.
even know this
That's
existed
nuts.
until I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. And then I said, well, where do I find that at? And that's how it started. Yeah. And that's exactly how I solve problems now. What do I want to do? And I have to go find it. So, having that advice would have saved me a lot. Like it saves you a lot of time to listen to someone who's knows what they're talking about and isn't trying to sell you something.
Yeah.
You know,
I have a funny story. This is like hilarious. So I used to do Muay Thai, and I used to travel to Thailand to do kickboxing. And this is like equivalent of having a YouTuber give you coding advice is, they really are so disconnected. So I was talking to like a world Muay Thai champion, and he literally said to me, hey, next week there's like a fight happening. Like you should sign up and you should do it. And I'm just like, just listen to yourself. Like I'm going to get murdered. Like, because I've never had like professional fighting experience. And his like tip for me was just like, just go and do it. Because you'll learn as you get beat up. And I'm like, that's not like a good strategy. And so it's because he has a disconnect where he had over like bajillion fights. He has that experience. It's something that he lives and breathes. And I am at a level where like I'm more of an amateur fighter, where for me, like to take that next step would literally be like devastating and totally unrealistic. And so for me, I was like, no, you know what? I need to train more. I never ended up like fighting professionally in Muay Thai, but I still love it as a sport. It's like fantastic. But to me, like that's like sometimes when you get this advice from other people, it's so out of context and it literally doesn't apply to you, but it just sounds nice and people get excited and motivated and like they'll watch the videos. But when it comes to execution and practice, it's just like an opinion of somebody. And for me, it's like I much rather talk to people who are going through the process and they're able to give me like literally like minute-to-minute updates of what it's like trying to get hired. Like here's one tip, like one thing I know is a fact and nobody ever talks about it. Like try to find a YouTuber that will tell you how many resumes on average you have to send out to get your first job. I have a friend that I personally know. I see her face. I talk to her in real life. So like I'm not making someone up. And I know more people that had the similar experience. She went to QA boot camp, so quality assurance, like test code, like testing code, like stuff like that. She graduated out of her boot camp. She got an internship through her boot camp, which is nice, which definitely helped her to get that initial experience. It took her 300 resumes that she sent out. 300. That's not a number I just made up. It's a number she basically for 3 months, her full-time job was like sending out resumes and following up. She did 300 resumes. She got 5 interviews out of those 300 like resumes she's out. 5 interviews. And she got 2 offers. And then now she's working. And nobody will tell people because no one wants to be told, oh, you might need to do 300, 400. And somebody I talked to was like 200 resumes. And it was like 3 interviews and 1 job. You know, it's insane. It's insane.
Yeah.
And people need to know the truth.
I've only sent out maybe 10, 20 maybe.
Yeah.
None of them have gotten like, oh yeah. Great.
But I bet if you did 200, you'll get a job.
Yeah. It is a full-time job to send out resumes and then redo your resume, try to make it all nice. And then
like, it's like,
then you have to like edit it and then say, oh, and then you have to have a cover page for every company that you send it that
it'll be better.
It'll
increase your chances.
Like how do you send out resumes? Well, you read the company's values, see if they align with yours, and then write an introduction of who you are and what you think you can add to the team. I mean, that's how I've been sending out resumes. And we have resume helpers at the university where get feedback on it. You know, it's a full-time job and I'm just like, I'm going to hold off on this until I build something.
Yeah. And
I need this thing to be my resume.
And there's no YouTuber that will tell you the honest truth about that process because it's demotivating. It's going to make you, but that's life. That's what you got to do. Like, and this is like, and to me, I get excited. I much rather like tell me the hard truth. So I at least know where I'm starting at. And I know the things that I have to actually do rather than make me feel nice about like what I'm doing. I'm always like at my company, we had a quarterly and my feedback to my managers, like, listen, don't wait for the quarterly to give me feedback that you think I need improvement. Give it to me straight as soon as possible so I could reevaluate what I'm doing and change like what I need to do to be more successful and productive. I will just tell me the truth. I remember one time, like when, I don't know why I have these dating advice, but you know, I was talking to this girl and she literally told me like the hard truth that there's no chance I have of having any dating relationship with her. And that actually saved me time because instead of obsessing about this one person, I was like, you know what, fair enough. Like, yeah, I'm heartbroken, but I moved on and just was able to. And this is like the important part of it. Like, I hate vagueness and ambiguity. I need to know yes or no, because yes or no, you could make a decisive decision that will lead to improvement. And this is what I feel like a lot of like other channels out there, and there's plenty of good ones. Like, don't think like I'm talking bad, but a lot of them, like, they'll give you either stuff that's positive to make you feel good, which, you know, is nice to hear, but it doesn't mean that it's helpful, or it's too ambiguous advice that you don't even know how to apply it or what to do with it. And like, I don't want to be that person. Like, I do love talking and chatting with people, but to me, it's like you need the truth and you need to because that's something you could act on. You could act on valid information, you know what I mean? And do what you have to do.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Like Twitter, for example, or any social media platform. It's
God.
like, I wish
I
it was
love
just
Twitter.
like relevant posts. Like that's like, oh, I don't know. Um, Maybe that's just a tangent. I'll just not even talk about it. It's
No. Let's do it quickly. So there's so many people that do irrelevant content on Twitter, and then they grow their channels to like 10,000 subscribers. Like, and I'm like,
well,
how's this stupidity happens? And so like, I need to
it's
create
a
a
distraction.
Twitter
People want to be distracted.
trolling account because I don't want to use mine, because I use mine for like productive stuff like work and meetups and meeting other people.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
so I'll tell you a good
networking.
use. Yeah, exactly. Networking. So I'll give you like good use of Twitter. So I went to a meetup in Remix, and then I tweeted out like, hey, like Remix meetup was so awesome. Like, I can't wait to learn. And then my next tweet was like, I started building this project. You could check it out here. And like the organizer of the Remix event actually saw that tweet, reached out to me. It's like, hey, Paul, like that's cool. I'm glad you had fun at the event. I see that you're like building a Remix project. If you learn something cool, even if it's something simple, we'd love to have you come and talk at the meetup. And
That's cool. Yeah.
and so like I'm doing on Thursday, I'm going to go to the meetup and give a
Nice.
little talk of like based what I learned. And that's like the power of using Twitter, building these connections, getting like involved in the community, not like JavaScript or CoffeeScript or whatever the dumbass questions. Okay, if you love
I
Twitter
asked
and you
one
do these,
the other day.
what was it? Did you do it as trolling or was it like legitimate?
No, it was yesterday. I was legitimately asking the experience of people who've used Flutter, because I
Yeah.
didn't know. I don't
Yeah.
know anyone who's used Flutter before.
But that question like it makes sense because like it involves someone to give you their like actual like opinion of it, but it's not something that's designed for engagement, but no real value comes out of it. Like if you like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like for me, I'm either sharing what I'm building, or I would like, I haven't asked any legitimate questions on Twitter yet, which, you know, I never thought about doing that yet, to be honest, because of all the stupidity you see on Twitter. But
Yeah,
anyway,
I only joined like
digress.
2001 or 2021.
Yeah, I
So, and then
literally
I'm like,
started
ugh,
like recently.
this is
Yeah,
disgusting.
recently. Oh my
But
god.
yeah. Anyways,
It is what it is.
yeah. So you're doing a meetup Thursday.
Yeah, yeah.
That's cool.
And that opens up doors, you know. And then like I had like the people from Remix team to like retweet my tweet, which I think is awesome. So here's the thing: like build cool stuff with the tech that you like, and tag those companies, and someone in the company will notice if you're providing value, because people want to
Yeah.
hear someone's using their tech to build cool stuff, and that's like a great way to start a conversation. And then also, you know, you're doing it in public, you're getting out in the community, and you're building relationship. And so like my goal is, instead of meetups, try to like do a talk at a conference. I think it'll be cool. And, you know, so there's definitely a lot of power of positive. And like you could be a Twitter influencer. I just don't even know like what that is though, and how you make money, because a lot of the examples that I see of tech influencers, like it's not content that I personally care for or follow, outside of the stake of being able to like do trolling comments. So I need to set up a different Twitter account, because some of the questions they ask, they literally, I think like, I don't know if YouTube gets mad about it, like, and I don't know if it's like a proper term, but it's like mental masturbation, which leads to nowhere. It's like
Yeah.
I don't want to have a discussion for the sake of a discussion. Like someone like disliked, perfect. So anyway, I always love it. More people should like dislike my content. But like the idea is like, the reason I brought you like and talked to you is because like I find value in like your experience, and I think other people will find value in what it is. Oh, by the way, I'm just gonna say this. I bet it's a Twitter influencer that just put a dislike on my perfectly liked videos. My perfectly liked videos. The truth is like, you know, at the end of the day, your life is your life, and you are the only person that cares about what's going to happen. Like, and so a lot of people, like no one's going to make you successful. You got to do the work yourself. And that's basically like how I feel. And you could engage in certain things in ways that, you know, are productive or destructive. And to me, maybe it's because I'm 42 years old and I just don't care about like engaging in stuff that doesn't bring value. And maybe I even have those conversations myself. And like, hopefully people will call me out on that BS. But the point is, like, I don't have time to engage in stuff for the sake of like, check me out, look how cool I am, look at me on Twitter, like whatever, you know, and look how many followers I have. Like, I don't need that type of self recognition, I guess, or whatever you call like validation. Like, I am cool because I have so many followers. My cats give me enough validations to know that I'm a good human being. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need to like rely on social media. And so to me, I much rather do stuff that brings value either to me or to the people around me. And that's it, you know?
Yeah. That's, well, yeah. So 100% agree. Your time management is important. That's a skill in itself. So
yeah,
and the cats will judge you if you were doing something wrong. So they'll keep you in line. 100%. It's true.
You know what? Like what's funny is that there's so many people that like. So we had someone in the like. So I started like coding after community for a while. Like we used to be on Slack, then we moved to something else, and I had people, two types of people there. There's one girl in particular, Katya. She's also in her 30s. She worked like paralegal stuff and she wanted to switch careers because she wanted to make a life change. And to her, it was just kind of like, this is what I have to do. And so regardless, whatever tips I gave her, like she's like, Paul, you helped me so much. But to me, it's not me. It's what she did herself. Like she put in the work. She built the projects. She did what she had to do. She didn't wait. Like regardless if I would give her the tips or not, she would still do the work required to get hired. And then there are other people in my community that just ask me stuff and then they just give me excuses why they can't succeed. And it's been 3 years, 4 years, and they're not pushing the needle. And it's hard. Sometimes like you might actually do everything right and still fail. Like, please, I do understand that. But there are some people that just expect stuff to happen without doing the work. And then they're surprised that stuff doesn't happen. And so for me, I don't have the time to deal with that later, like type of person who is only gonna like talk crap and not really apply. And it's not even like that I care for them. It's like they should care enough for themselves to acknowledge the fact that, hey, this thing is hard. I need to do a massive amount of work if I want to get this job or succeed in this industry or this field. And I should probably do the work. Right, exactly.
It should be hard.
Yeah, thank you. See, I know I invited you for a reason. By the way, thank you for jumping on and like doing the stream. I think it's like super awesome. It's really cool.
Hell yeah, I'm all for it. Yeah, I mean, I found your channel because I'm over 30 and I'm coding, so put
Perfect.
Yeah, it was like I was searching for a community because that also when you go back to school, like at my age, you don't relate easily to the people you're in class with. That I mean, it's like I remember listening. I was like, oh, I remember. Did I sound like that? But I didn't hang out with them. I wasn't like, oh yeah, I wasn't. No, I didn't. I made some friends through the vet center. There's a little veterans club on campus.
Yeah.
And like those people I hung out with for the first year. For the first year I was there, to help me get familiar with what campus life is like. But other than that, like I didn't. I was on my own. I didn't go to any parties. I had that while I was in the Navy and out after the Navy. I had a lot of excitement.
Yeah,
that's a whole. I'm not even going to get into any of that. But I mean, so yeah. What was I saying? Yeah, so I found your community because I did, it was nice seeing you know, people out there that were going through my issues.
Yeah.
And then like, well, and again, just to say what I said again, add a lane, but they all have to be facing going the same direction. I don't want to hear from people who, oh, say you can't do this, you can't do that, or don't have. They're not like trying to keep pushing, because we all go through like, oh, how do I do this? Do I even belong here? Or, or how am I going to solve this problem? But like, you keep grinding away, just slowly, consistently, every single day, do something, force yourself to do it. And that's all you can do. And if it succeeds, fantastic. And if it doesn't, it might succeed tomorrow.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly. Yeah, it is true. And this is like one thing I tell people, listen, like whenever you doing something, you have to find a community of people you jive with and like. And not every person you're going to jive with, not every community you're going to like. This is why, like, I know I joke around a lot, but I know that there's going to be people that just don't jive with what I put down. They might not like my face, whatever it is, like whatever the reason is. And you know what? It's okay. Like, it's their right to have an opinion. It's their right to not like somebody and not give the reason why. And it's perfectly fine. And you know what? There's other people that you might jive with more and get more value in their community. It doesn't have to be my community. And that's the beautiful part about life, beautiful part about like YouTube, is that you get to decide who you want to hang out with. And that is perfectly okay. And so for me, like when I started doing this, I was like, man, this is a problem I'm having. I'm like in my 30s. I'm trying to figure out how to make the transition into my career. I wish I had something that where I'm surrounded by like-minded people that are struggling through the same issues I'm struggling with. And this is why I kind of started this YouTube channel for me. And there's plenty of YouTubers that like I don't like I don't even know why I don't like him. Like there are certain influencers I don't like. And you know what? Like, it's okay for me not to like him, just like it's okay for somebody else not to like me. You know what I mean? And the one thing that I would say, though, if you are spending a lot of time complaining about others and you're not spending enough time doing the work that is required of you to succeed, you're not hurting me. Like, I'm going to get a dislike, but I'm still going to do the work that I need to do for my job. And so what I want people to understand is like, make sure you spend, regardless how you feel about me or other people, make sure you spend time on developing yourself more than you do on hating on others. That was like my PSA on dislikes. And then to make myself feel better, I logged into a bunch of different YouTube accounts and I liked my own video. So there. I'm gonna see how many likes I could get, just so I could like enjoy my life. But anyway, I'm just kidding.
React. Oh, React. Yeah, so I'm reading that question right now.
Yeah, which one was it?
Habibo?
Yeah, quick question. Yeah, here you go. Put on the screen. I will give my opinion first, and I have blinders. So in my area, React was very popular. And so I focused on React because I know it's something that's in demand. And I was able to get hired as a front-end React developer because of that. So I think it really depends on the needs in your area. But just to be fair, we did talk about there's other things that you could do as a developer. So just please take into consideration this is a path that I chose because I felt it would be the easiest way to do it, but there's other paths you could take. So if you want to get into web development, I think knowing a framework is important. And so if you understand JavaScript, I would definitely go and learn like React and then build one project and then start applying. That would be like my take. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm reading Tammy's question, statement about older students. So anyone considering, or maybe they're at university and they felt like I did, as far as, oh, is this really for me? But then I so I was willing to, like, I knew why I was there, right? I wasn't there for the experience of,
Yeah.
making a whole bunch of, you know, I had gone through that phase of life. I knew exactly why I was at OSU, and
Yeah.
I knew exactly what I wanted to achieve there, and I was willing to stay up. There was terms where I barely slept. I would stay up all night. I had my giant whiteboard where I'd do all my I had to erase the whiteboard 8 times to solve this vector calculus
Wow.
final problem. I would sacrifice sleep to get what I needed to get done, you know? And
Y-
they would look at me like, it's go to sleep. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not going to go to sleep. Not till I'm done. Um, yeah, she's right, because I knew that there was more on the line, that I knew why I was there, and no one was forcing me to be there.
Yeah.
So I think that if you apply that to just, if you're not getting a degree and you're learning by yourself, have that put those blinders on and just do whatever you want to build. Don't bullshit. Get it done. And if you don't get it done, see what you did wrong and then continue.
Yeah. And yeah, that to me, like what you just said, makes like perfect sense. Like, and I still like don't know like why it's hard for some to understand like the similar thing. Kind of like you have to do the work, to get stuff done. Like, and when you don't, you're only hurting yourself. You're only, and it's like, for me, it's just like, how, like, how are you able to like spend more time on somebody else by being complaining or being negative? I'm not saying that's all of you people, than spending on yourself. You know what I mean? Like that to
Yeah.
me just,
Put that much energy into yourself. But I
yeah.
mean, some people don't. And that's not even, see, as soon as I see myself like even talking about this, it's not something I want to spend time on.
Yeah, exactly. We
Like,
already
I
gave too
don't want to
much
even
credit.
talk
God
about
damn it, they
this.
got us. They got us. They got us. Jesus, damn it.
you know.
Knew it.
So yeah, right there is a lesson. Once you start
The
recognizing that you're talking about it, stop. You're already falling down that path. It's like,
we
no, let's
already
just,
got tricked. That the one
yeah,
this slide got us. It derailed the whole
yeah.
conversation to talk about people that don't apply themselves. You are a winner. You won. Whoever, if you're still on, like you won. You won.
No,
You
like,
did it.
yeah.
You did
Anyways,
it. You did it.
Ben,
It's funny.
I thought so for my resumes, yeah, I included like what I was doing in my site, but at one point I took everything off my site down and I just left it there. I kept the domain and
Yeah.
it's like, hey, this is my site. There's nothing there. I don't know. I haven't gotten a job yet with my resume, so I'm the wrong person to ask.
But you also only send out like 20
Yeah,
resumes. Like
I haven't
I
tried
guarantee you,
that.
if you do 200, you're going to
Yeah,
definitely,
yeah, I can do
yeah,
React pretty well, but I'm not.
yeah, yeah. No, dude, you're a smart dude, and I know like based on like what you do, and you're gonna get there. It's literally for you. I feel like it's just doing enough resumes. I think that's
Probably.
literally my guess,
Yeah.
based
Yeah, I'm
on
not
what you
putting
know.
myself enough out there at all because
Yeah,
I'm actually, I did make that mistake where I would, I was so focused that I was like in this little castle of just me and my little laboratory, I guess. Of,
yeah,
and then I like pushed everything aside and just focused on what I needed to do.
yeah,
And I did that too much to where I wasn't networking.
yeah.
So that's the mistake that I made.
Yeah, and you like that's the point of like kind of learning and going through all this stuff, is that you realize those things, and it's important. So if I were to give like a pro tip, like to finish up this amazing a live stream, is figure out what you need to do to succeed in your life and take those steps and do them consistently over time, and don't care about anybody's like opinion that does not provide a value towards reaching your goal, and take things with a grain of salt. There's always going to be people that will, like a lot of people in my family, for instance, didn't believe that I would succeed, which was like heartbreaking. And then now when I succeeded, people are like, oh, we knew you were going to succeed, you know? And so you just have to do you. You have to do what you have to do. And what would your final words be in terms of like one tip that you could give?
Keep it pushing. That's it.
Yeah, that's it. People thought there'll be like some secrets, you know, like, I mean, we actually, like, if you're just joining, and you like, definitely check out the whole stream, play it on 2-speed, like while you're like jogging or walking or whatever you're doing. But we did talk about a lot of great value, but the main important thing, like you said, is keep pushing forward, be consistent, and, you know, do the things that will get results. And so one of the things that I like is failing as quickly as possible, and then making sure that I'm able to identify what changes I need to make sure that next time I'm in the same scenario, I could do better. And like, I'll give like last example. When I used to like interview, and I even had this in my last interview where I actually got the job, but one of the questions they asked, what would you do if we told you you're not the candidate? And so my answer to them was like, you know, I would say, thank you for giving the interview. I really appreciate your time. And before I go, can you tell me why you chose to go with another candidate versus me? And I like that question a lot because it will give me feedback that I could use to improve on, to allow me to increase my chances in the next interview. And this is how you have to live your life, is you have to have that feedback loop and cycle where whatever action you take, it doesn't just go into the ether, but you able to identify this was a good action because it gave me this, or it was a bad action because, you know, it didn't help me at all. And then go through that loop over and over and over. And over time, you'll make every mistake possible that will help you build that experience to get to where you want to go.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. You know, like one issue I have is like I talk too much, so I apologize. But I guess that's why I'm on YouTube. That's why
I was like, what else could I say that was as good as that?
Yeah. But that is what it is.
Keep it pushing wasn't good enough. No, that have
No,
all your
keep on
goals
pushing
aligned.
is the thing. Yeah, keep on pushing. Like the reason why every accomplishment I had in life, from my martial art business, from even dating, is not giving up. You know, if people say no, I moved on. Like, don't, you know, it's like you just go like somewhere else. In coding, keep on pushing. Like in like anything like I'm doing, that tends to be the thing. It's like, keep doing the work.
Yeah.
So
I wanted to, but before we go, I definitely, I think I still want to put people together to work on an open source project of something, maybe like that idea you had of making the job list, and that would give a lot of people experience on working together. Make it a public repo and say everyone in the community, add yourself as a watcher, make pull requests. Let's start planning the site, and then it'll be some sort of repo for the community to, you know, basically gain experience on working within a team of just people. Like, there's no reason why we can't do that.
No, 100%. We definitely have to chat.
I don't know how we do that. So
like when, we'll definitely talk more about this. I definitely like that idea. Because I feel like that's something that's missing. And it's not missing, like there's communities, but I think having something where it makes it easier for people to build experience while learning and visibility with others by working together, I think is going to be awesome.
Yeah. It'd be like a mentorship program that's ever revolving.
Yeah. You definitely have to chat more about it. But thank you everyone for this beautiful Saturday I could now go and cry because of one dislike I got. That's exactly what I'm going to spend the rest of the Saturday with. And then more importantly, thank you for coming on. It was so much fun. We'll definitely have to do more of these and we'll talk more. But with that being said, everybody have a great rest of the weekend, evening, night, or day, wherever you are, and we'll chat more. Take care, everybody.